Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. So today is definitely a Scotch day, and one of the wonderful things about Scotch is that it's good for both a celebration drink and also a morning drink. So as a celebration, I just got a result back on a sub application on my Section 74 hearing. That went well. That will be for a future video. Unfortunately, this video is about Bill C-21, which is definitely the other kind of drinking. All right, so Bill C-21 is a new bill that's been advanced by the Liberal Party with respect to firearm issues. This is not a great bill, and a lot of people have pointed to the fact that it's unlikely that it's going to be passed in this session, and that's correct. But this is clearly the government giving a signal. They expect them to bring this back again, and quite likely this is going to be election fodder, which means expect them to call an election in the not too distant future and to use this as one of the things they campaign on. So there's a lot in this that is very much problematic. I'm going to be doing a series of videos on this. I do this just as one video, but quite frankly, I want to take some time to go through this and digest it. And so what I'm going to do instead is do a series of shorter videos that look at specific subsections and break them down in some detail. So this is instead going to be more of a broad overview video, which is going to give sort of a roadmap for some of the things I want to talk about in future. So there's a number of things in this, and it starts out with a little summary, which is actually super helpful. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on here. So first, they note increase from 10 to 14 years the maximum penalty of imprisonment for indictable weapon offenses in sections 95, 96, 99, 100, and 103. So this is a small bump in the maximum penalty, and it's probably not going to mean a whole lot. This is purely, nobody is really getting 10 years. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of people getting 14 years. I don't think this is going to affect the sentencing a whole lot. But it's going to be something where they can say, look, we did something. We're cracking down on these offenses. I can't really complain too much about this one. I'm glad that it's affecting maximums rather than minimums. And this bit is probably the only part that is likely to actually affect criminals in any meaningful way, maybe a little. So the next is they want to set up something for any person to be able to apply for an emergency firearm prohibition order. Any person. So previously, this power did exist, and this power was available to police. So if you had an issue, you could go to the police, and then the police could take those steps, and that seems to me to be a pretty good system. Instead, this one just allows any random person to go in and apply for an ex parte order. And what an ex parte order means is that it's an order that is without one of the parties. It's just only one side gets to show up and present their argument. If you're wondering, hey, isn't that going to be a bit of a problem because there's nothing there to counter any bad information? You betcha. This is basically a legalized swatting provision, and I'll explain more in a future video, but this is terrible. It's hard to imagine a worse idea here, but they're going to go with this. This is going to be wonderful for stalkers. It's going to be wonderful for harassers. If you've made any enemies, the Liberals are here handing your enemies a wonderful little tool. Next thing is deem certain firearms to be prohibited devices for the purpose of specified provisions. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, what does that mean? Well, this means that they want to ban Airsoft. Pretty much every Airsoft gun that's used, they want to ban it. They basically want to rule out the entire sport. And, this is going to affect a lot of people. I will tell you that I've been fielding calls and emails and messages all day with people who are freaked out and wanting some reassurance. And the reassurance I've been able to give them is, yeah, it's every bit as bad as people are saying. This one is going to need a full video, but basically they want to ban Airsoft in Canada. It's going to affect paintballers a lot less, but not none. and it's going to affect all sorts of people. This is a terrible provision, and yeah, I'll get into that. Next one is they want to create a new offense for altering a cartridge magazine to exceed its lawful capacity, which is the kind of thing that sounds like, hey, you know, maybe they're trying to crack down on people who are doing bad things. I'm not sure how often they're actually going to be able to prove this offense, and I'll explain why, again, future video. This one is more of a roadmap for problems as opposed to going into detail. This is, again, just kind of a show piece of legislation here. I don't imagine this is going to be all that helpful. And it was impossible to do what they're talking about legally anyway. So, I can't really find too much fault with this section, but it is blatant political, blatantly political, sort of using the law to curry votes and not in any way that's actually sort of accomplishing anything useful. Next is authorize employees of certain federal entities who are responsible for security to be considered as public officers for the purpose of Section 117.07, which exempts people from a whole lot of stuff. So the big gap here was nuclear safety officers, who apparently the people guarding nuclear plants were allowed to only use, you know, string and harsh language. So this they're fixing. That makes sense to me. I mean, it seems to me that if you're talking about a nuclear plant, maybe it might make sense for them to have sidearms. Okay, I'll give them that one. That's fair enough. There's also a bunch of amendments. So one of the things they're doing is the grandfathering provisions that were brought in by, oh right, this government. They're repealing and replacing with a worse, crappier grandfathering provision. So if you know, lots of us, myself included, were looking at the grandfathering provisions saying, oh yeah, that's what they'll use. No, they have made it far worse, and that I'll cover in another thing. For right now, I will say, lots of people have been saying, hey, I want to strip my AR-15 down. Don't strip it. Keep it together for right now. You want it as a complete AR-15 and not as sort of a parts kit. All right. Next, they want to transfer authority to the Commissioner of Firearms to approve, refuse, renew, and revoke authorizations to carry for the preservation of life. Nobody was getting those anyway, so I'm not sure why they're doing this, but I can't see it being a good change. Unless they're planning on starting to actually issue some of these, maybe. Impose requirements in respect... Oh, I can guess why they're doing this. They're doing this to take it away from the provincial CFOs. That'll be what they're doing. So Alberta's now is now hiring. I understand that they've selected somebody. I don't know who it is. It's not me. But they've selected a chief firearms officer. So they want to make sure that that chief firearms officer can't start giving ATCs for preservation of life. So that'll be why they've done that. That just occurred to me. But yeah, so that's their response, is they want to move that outside of provincial control. All right, next thing is they want to impose requirements in respect to the importation of ammunition. This isn't going to affect a whole lot of people. It just says you got to have a license and so forth. Require that the holders of a license authorizing possession of a handgun comply with requirements within a municipality in which a bylaw has been established. So this is their handgun bans. They're basically trying to transfer powers from the federal government to the municipal government. This is, again, going to be a whole video in and of itself. I know I already did a video on this topic, but now that we've actually got the legislation, or at least a proposal for legislation, this seems like a time to revisit it and look at it in the context of what's actually been proposed, because the way they've proposed to do it is kind of interesting and raises its own special concerns. Require that the Commissioner of Firearms maintain a publicly available list of the municipalities in which such requirements and prohibitions apply, which is good because otherwise it would be pretty much impossible to track all this down, but it's still going to be fairly miserable. They're also creating an authorization for suspension of licenses. Now, this is something that the chief firearms officers have been doing informally. where they say, oh, well, you've still got a license, but we've put a hold on it. Now, that hold never existed in law. So this is kind of a tacit admission that the practice of the firearms officers that has been going on for a long time is illegal, that they've been behaving unlawfully. So I'm glad they're admitting it. I'm not glad that they're imposing this thing, because there's basically no way to challenge it. They can just suspend your license for 30 days because they feel like it, and they can keep doing it. And if you want to challenge that, there is no provision written into the Firearms Act, which means that most people would have to go to federal court. And, good luck getting it heard before the suspension expires, and for less than, say, $10,000. So that's a terrible provision. It's really going to lend itself to abuses, and we'll have to see sort of how that goes forward, but it's really a bad provision. Next is a provision that they're wanting that says that if they say that they're going to revoke your license, that if you want to challenge that, you have to turn in your firearms. Now, that's very strange, because the whole point of the revocation, or of the process for challenging that, was actually to allow you to continue holding your firearms. The revocation process was sort of was the least onerous of the processes available to the police and to the chief firearms officer. If they thought it was more serious, they could bring an application under Section 111 for a prohibition. Or if they thought that it was urgent, they had options under Section 117, which allowed them to go in and take the firearms. So it's not clear why this was needed. This seems very abusive here, and I don't get why this is being imposed. It's actually kind of a penalty for challenging their decisions. So this is going to make Section 74 much more onerous. Next is they're wanting to authorize them to disclose information to law enforcement agencies. So all of this is going to be essentially a big monitoring system, although that was already going on. So I'm not sure why that section was necessary, because they were already doing that. In fact, they brag about this if you call up the Canadian Firearms Program and listen to their hold music. So again, not really sure why they're doing this. Another one that they want to impose is to create a new criminal offense, or, a new offense under the Firearms Act, which is that it's going to be a crime for any firearm business to advertise a firearm in a fashion that depicts, counsels, or promotes violence against a person. Now, if you're wondering, what does that mean? Well, for instance, if they said, hey, this is a good home defense shotgun, that would count as an offense, notwithstanding the fact that home defense is still lawful in Canada. We still have self-defense provisions. I don't expect that self-defense as a concept in Canadian law is going to go away anytime soon. So this is, again, very weird, and all it's likely to result in is it's likely to result in some very interesting sort of talking around issues. This also is going to raise some charter issues. So that's going to be interesting. Again, probably another video just in that topic in and of itself. If I wanted to cover in detail everything that's in this bill, this video would probably be about 6 hours long. So I'm going to break this up into a lot of smaller topics. I also want to get in talking about my Section 74 hearing, because I'm really feeling kind of mixed feelings today, because all of this stuff is terrible, all of the stuff in the law, but I'm really kind of happy about my result today. So I'm going to want to inject that in there to share that with you, explain what that means, and, what that's going to involve going forward. But, that's happy Scotch time. So I feel like that's a different kind of video, though, when I'm talking happy Scotch. So anyway, as I said, I'm going to be doing a number of follow-up videos. Let me know in the comments below what order you'd like to see me do these in, because there's a lot of topics here, and, some of them people want to hear sort of sooner rather than later. if I don't sort of hear a sort of dramatic thing otherwise, if people don't say, hey, this is some other thing we want to hear about, I suspect that the first thing I'll talk about is going to be the airsoft and, that issue, because I know a lot of people who are airsofters. I mean, I own some airsoft guns myself. I've enjoyed it every time I've gone. I'm just really bad at actually getting out to the fields. And so, yeah, I guess I better make some time while I still can. So that's going to be a huge issue. I mean, I'm talking to people who are worried that they're going to lose their livelihood. I'm talking to people who've said, that this is incredibly important to them. After I do that, I'll probably look at the municipalities issue. And, after that, sort of whatever order either people want or the feeling strikes me. As noted, this is a terrible bill. There's a lot of stuff in here that is going to affect a lot of people. Frankly, even if you're not a gun owner and even if you're not an airsoft gun owner, the emergency protection order or emergency sort of prohibition order provision should scare you. And I will explain in a video why that is, because that one is not just one that should, worry you as a gun owner. It should worry you as a person who likes not having the police kick down your door. It's a really bad provision. I can't overstate just how bad the potential is for that one. Anyway, thank you for watching. I know this is depressing as hell. It depresses me as well. But let me know in the comments below what you're thinking. I know a lot of people are really unhappy about this one. This may not be the final form of the bill. They're probably going to listen to some of these criticisms and adjust things, but probably not adjust things in a way that actually makes them better. They're probably going to adjust them in ways that make them more politically palatable. Anyway, once again, thank you for watching. Please like this video. Please share it with your friends. I think it's important that this news get out. Please subscribe if you want to see more content. And I also want to thank my Patreon supporters who really help this channel, continue doing what it's doing. I've got some big plans and that's helping to support that. So at the $50 level, Demo, Sir Daniel Wicks of Alberta, Canada's National Firearms Association, North Central Process Service, and Kyle Martin. At the $20 level, Cameron Johnson, Dale Nesbitt, and Andrew Elsich, as well as a number of you at the $10 level who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. I wish I had better news. I mean, I've had lots of people sort of messaging me saying, tell me it's not as bad as this looks. And unfortunately, the answer is mostly, yeah, it's that bad. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge, and see you next time. There's going to be a few things, and I hope you've got a glass here to help sort of ease the pain. Cheers.